How Stoics deal with regret and past mistakes. Regret has a strange power over the mind. A mistake may have lasted only a few seconds, yet we can spend years replaying it. We revisit the conversation, the decision, or the opportunity we missed. We imagine what we should have said, what we could have done, and who we might have become if only we had chosen differently. The Stoics understood this kind of suffering. They knew that human beings do not merely experience pain once. We often recreate it through memory, judgment, and imagination. The mistake happened in the past, but regret keeps inviting it into the present. Stoicism does not tell us to ignore our mistakes, excuse bad behavior, or pretend that the past does not matter. Its message is more demanding: face the truth, take responsibility, learn what can be learned, and then stop punishing yourself for what cannot be changed. The first Stoic principle for dealing with regret is the distinction between what is within our control and what is not. Epictetus taught that some things depend on us and others do not. Our present choices, judgments, intentions, and actions are ours. The past is not. No amount of guilt, anger, or mental replay can alter an event that has already happened. Regret survives because part of us refuses to accept reality. We replay the scene as though we might discover a version in which everything turns out differently. But the past is fixed. The question is what we will do with the moment that remains. A Stoic might ask, what is under my control right now? Perhaps you can apologize. Perhaps you can repair some of the damage. Perhaps you can change a habit, repay a debt, rebuild trust, or make a different decision next time. Those are living possibilities. But when nothing can be done, the task is acceptance. Acceptance is not approval. It does not mean that the mistake was good. It means you are no longer demanding that reality be different from what it is. The second Stoic response is to separate the event from the judgment you place upon it. A mistake is an event. Regret often becomes unbearable because we add a story. I ruined everything. I am a failure. I always make the wrong choice. I do not deserve peace. The Stoics believe that events disturb us less than our interpretations of them. This does not mean that consequences are imaginary. It means that our mental verdict can create a second wound. You may have acted selfishly, but that does not prove you are permanently selfish. You may have failed, but failure is not your identity. You may have hurt someone, but endless self-hatred does not help that person. In fact, shame can become another form of self-absorption. It keeps our attention fixed on how terrible we feel instead of what honorable action now requires. The Stoic alternative is honest, precise language. Instead of saying, I am a terrible person, say, I acted badly in that moment. Instead of saying, my life is ruined, say, this choice had serious consequences, and I must respond wisely. Instead of saying, I can never forgive myself, say, I do not yet know how to make peace with this, but I can begin by acting better today. Precise language creates room for change. It allows responsibility without turning a mistake into a life sentence. The third Stoic practice is to use regret as instruction. Marcus Aurelius regularly examined his own behavior. His private writings were not the reflections of a man who believed he was perfect. They were reminders from a man who repeatedly lost patience, became distracted, judged others, and then tried to return to his principles. This is one of the most practical lessons of Stoicism: reflection should produce correction. Ask yourself 3 questions. What exactly did I do? Why did I do it? What principle or practice would help me act differently next time? Maybe you ignored a warning because of pride. Maybe you stayed silent because you feared rejection. Maybe you acted impulsively because you were angry. Maybe you betrayed your values because you wanted approval. The goal is not to create a dramatic story about your flaws. The goal is to identify the mechanism of the mistake. Once you understand the mechanism, you can build a safeguard. If anger caused the mistake, practice pausing before responding. If fear caused it, train yourself to tolerate discomfort. If pride caused it, ask for criticism more often. If carelessness caused it, create a system that makes care more likely. Regret becomes useful when it changes your behavior. Otherwise, it is simply pain repeated without purpose. The fourth Stoic principle is that character is built in the present. We often think the past defines us because it contains evidence of who we have been. But Stoicism places moral value in the choice directly in front of us. You cannot choose yesterday, but you can choose what kind of person responds today. This is why a past mistake can become material for virtue. A dishonest act can become the reason you commit to truth. A period of cowardice can become the beginning of courage. A broken relationship can teach you patience, humility, and attention. A wasted year can teach you the value of time. The mistake itself is not virtuous. But your response can be. Seneca often wrote about the importance of reviewing the day. At night, he examined his conduct, where he had improved, where he had failed, and where he needed to be more disciplined. The purpose was not humiliation. It was training. Imagine treating your past as a teacher rather than a prosecutor. A prosecutor wants to prove that you are guilty forever. A teacher wants you to understand, improve, and move forward. Many people confuse self-punishment with accountability. They believe suffering longer proves they care more. But guilt is not repayment, and misery does not restore what was lost. Real accountability is active. It makes amends where possible. It accepts consequences without complaint. It changes patterns. It becomes more reliable. It does not demand instant forgiveness from others, and it does not use personal shame as an excuse to stop growing. The fifth Stoic response is to practice self-compassion without self-deception. Stoicism is sometimes misunderstood as coldness. But a wise Stoic would recognize that human beings act from limited knowledge, strong emotions, social pressure, fear, and mistaken beliefs. This does not remove responsibility. It gives context. Think of your younger self as a person who knew less, understood less, and had less discipline than you do now. That person may have caused real harm. But when you can now see the mistake clearly, that awareness is evidence that you are not exactly the same person. Be firm about the behavior, but do not be cruel toward the human being who must learn from it. Cruelty does not create wisdom. Hatred does not produce discipline. You do not become a better person by repeatedly telling yourself that you are beyond redemption. You become better by practicing better actions. The sixth Stoic idea is amor fati, the love of one's fate. This does not mean every painful event is secretly pleasant. It means refusing to treat any part of life as wasted material. What happened is now part of your story, and you can decide to use it. Perhaps your regret made you more empathetic toward people who fail. Perhaps it destroyed your certainty and made you humbler. Perhaps it forced you to rebuild your life on stronger values. Perhaps it revealed that success without integrity is empty. To love your fate is to say, I would not have chosen this pain, but since it is mine, I will turn it into wisdom. This attitude transforms the past from an enemy into raw material. Finally, the Stoics would remind us that life is short. Every hour spent reliving an unchangeable mistake is an hour removed from the life still available. That does not mean healing should be rushed. Some regrets are deep, and some consequences remain. But even grief must eventually make room for duty. There are people you can still love, work you can complete, habits you can change, and courage you can practice. The past asks for acknowledgement, not permanent residence. When regret returns, do not fight it with denial. Meet it with a Stoic sequence. Name what happened honestly. Separate the facts from the catastrophic story. Take responsibility for what was yours. Repair what can still be repaired. Extract the lesson. Create a better practice. Then return to the present. Your mind may bring the memory back tomorrow. Stoicism is repeated training. Each time the past appears, you practice choosing the present again. You are not required to forget your mistakes. You are required to stop making an identity out of them. You are not required to call the past good. You are invited to make good use of it. And you are not required to become perfect before you move forward. You only need to take the next action with more wisdom, courage, justice, and self-control than before. That is how the Stoics deal with regret. They do not deny their mistakes. They do not run from the consequences. They do not waste the rest of their lives wishing reality had been different. They face the past, learn from it, and return their attention to the one place where change remains possible, the present moment. The Stoics do not erase the past. They redeem it through the way they live now.